Whispers of the Lavender Field. In the heart of Provence, France, nestled between rolling hills and endless fields of lavender, there was a small village called Vailleron. Life moved slowly there, and the scent of lavender filled the air in every season. Among the villagers was a young woman named Elise Moreau, a florist who owned a tiny flower shop called Fleur de Lune. Elise had grown up in Vailleron, where she spent her days arranging blooms and writing poetry that she never showed anyone. One summer afternoon, a stranger arrived in Vailleron, a quiet man with tired eyes and a camera around his neck. His name was Adrien Blake, a travel photographer from London who had come to Provence hoping to find peace after losing his younger sister to cancer. Adrien rented a room above the village cafe, and each morning, he wandered the countryside, capturing the world in soft, melancholy shades. Their paths crossed one morning when Adrien wandered into Fleur de Lune, looking for flowers to photograph. Elise was arranging bouquets when she noticed him standing at the doorway, half lost in thought. Looking for something beautiful, she asked gently, brushing her chestnut curls behind her ear. Adrien looked up and smiled for the first time in weeks. "I think I've just found it." From that moment on, Adrien began visiting the shop every day, under the pretense of needing new flowers for his photographs. But it wasn't long before their conversations drifted beyond petals and photography, into poetry, music, memories, and pain. Elise shared her love for Rilke and her dream of publishing a book of poems. Adrien shared stories of his sister, of the guilt that followed him like a shadow. As the lavender bloomed into a sea of purple, so too did their bond. They picnicked under olive trees, danced barefoot on cobblestone streets during village festivals, and lay in the fields, watching the stars flicker like tiny promises. Elise slowly became the balm to Adrien's grief, and he became the spark that awakened the poet in her. But as the summer waned, reality crept in. Adrien's work called him back to London, and Elise had never left Vailleron, not once in her life. On their final night together, Adrien took her to the lavender field where they had first walked hand in hand. "I don't want to say goodbye," he whispered, holding her close. "Then don't," Elise replied. "Come back to me." He kissed her beneath the moonlight, promising he would. And then he left. Weeks passed. Then months. Elise wrote to him often, but received no reply. The village whispered. People said it was just another summer romance. Her heart began to ache with doubt. She returned to her poetry, pouring her longing and hope into every line, until one autumn morning, she mailed her first manuscript to a small publisher in Paris. Winter arrived in silence. Then, on the first day of spring, a package appeared at her doorstep. Inside was a leather-bound book of photographs titled Whispers of the Lavender Field. Every page captured their summer, the curve of her smile, the golden glow of sunset on her skin, her hands arranging wildflowers, their shadows entwined on the vineyard road. And there, on the last page, was a photo of her poetry, typed out, framed, and hanging on a gallery wall. A note was tucked inside. "I never stopped thinking of you. I was building something to honor you. I'm coming home, to Vailleron, if you'll still have me. Yours always, Adrien." Tears welled in Elise's eyes. She ran to the window, heart pounding. And there he was, standing at the gate, holding a single sprig of lavender. She ran into his arms, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Together, they built a new life, one of love, words, and light. And each summer, beneath the violet skies of Vailleron, Elise would read her poetry aloud while Adrien captured her in every frame, never again missing a moment. Because some love stories aren't meant to end. They are meant to bloom, year after year, like lavender in the sun. The Song Beneath the Stars. In the quiet town of Vaillemont, nestled between snow-capped mountains and endless meadows, lived a girl named Alara. She was a music teacher at the local school, known for her gentle voice, warm heart, and the way she could make even the most stubborn child fall in love with a piano key. Every evening after her classes, Alara would walk to the lake near the edge of town and sit on the same old wooden bench, strumming her guitar and singing softly to the twilight. She believed music carried memories, and she was waiting for a memory to return. That memory was a man named Aiden. 5 years ago, Alara met Aiden under strange but beautiful circumstances. He was a traveler, a photographer with a camera slung over his shoulder and a heart full of dreams. His car had broken down just outside Valemont, and she had found him on the road, wet from the rain, shivering but smiling. "Need a ride?" she had asked, holding an umbrella over him. "Only if it comes with a story," he had replied. From that day, Aiden became a part of Alara's life. He stayed in town for the summer, claiming he was waiting for parts for his car, but really, he was staying for her. They shared sunsets, laughter, long walks, and late-night talks beneath the stars. He showed her how to see beauty through the lens, she showed him how to hear it through music. They fell in love, not quickly, but deeply. But Aiden had a life beyond Valemont. His dream was to travel the world and publish a photography book about forgotten places. When the summer ended, he promised to return. "I'll be back before the lake freezes," he had whispered, kissing her one last time. But autumn passed. Winter came. And Aiden never returned. There were no calls, no letters, only silence. Many said he had moved on. Some said he had died. Alara, though heartbroken, refused to let bitterness take root. Instead, she waited. She sang to the stars and poured her love into every note. Her heart, though cracked, still held hope. Until one August evening, 5 years later. As the sun dipped below the hills, Alara sat at her usual bench, singing a song she had written for him. Her voice floated over the water. When she finished, a soft clap echoed behind her. She turned and froze. There he was. Aiden. He looked older, his hair a little longer, a few lines on his face, but his eyes, oh, his eyes were still the same. Gentle. Wild. Full of stories. "I told you I'd come back," he said softly. Tears welled in her eyes. 5 years, Aiden. I was in a hospital in Nepal. Earthquake. Lost my memory. I didn't even know who I was for a year. It took time to find my way back to myself. To you. He pulled out a crumpled photo from his jacket. It was a picture of her by the lake, the last one he had taken that summer. This brought everything back. She walked to him, touched his face, her hands trembling. "And now? I want to stay. Not for a season. For a lifetime." The stars began to shine above them, and Alara, without a word, handed him the guitar. He strummed the first chord, clumsy but sincere. Together, beneath the sky that had once heard her sorrow, they sang a new song, one of healing, of hope, of love that had waited through time and memory. And the lake, the stars, the quiet town of Valemont, they all remembered.